Hi, everybody. Welcome to Geography and Culture. Riley's here with me today because we're going to sing a few songs, and I always like having someone to sing along with me. So far, we've kind of traveled around the globe with our continent song, and you've been making some of your own maps, I've been seeing, and I'm really proud of all of you who are participating. And if you're not, that's okay too. We can have that lesson as soon as school returns. And maybe you've already made the continent map, so you're ready and already working on other maps. But there are so many options when going around the world. We could go on and on from country to country throughout the world. We talked a little bit about China and Italy, but we're going to bring it on home to North America and to our country where we live in the United States. Um, North America is a little bit unique because it's pretty much divided into three large countries, except for Central America, which has lots of smaller countries. But if you look at a continent like Africa or Asia or Europe, there are many, many countries. And so you could explore each of them and all of them, and I encourage you to do so. Each one has unique landmarks, special famous buildings, different languages, different cultures, so there's so much to learn. But we're going to bring it on home to North America and our country. And the best place to start in North America is by starting with the first Americans, the Native Americans. Now, we've had lots of conversations about this in my class, and I'm sure in other classes as well, especially with regards to different holidays throughout the year. We really simplify our conversations and discuss kind of how our history originates in our country, and we talk about how the Native Americans were here first. And I really hope to just encourage children to have an interest in history and their world around them. So that's our goal with this. I'm going to read one story about the first Americans, and then we have a couple songs that we're going to sing. Okay? Our book today is called The Very First Americans. Long ago, nobody lived in America. There were animals, huge woolly mammoths, big wildcats, bison, but there were no people at all. Animals may have led the first people over here. The animals wandered into America from the frozen north, and hunters came after them. After hundreds of years, these first Americans were scattered all across the country. They lived in big groups called tribes. There were hundreds of different tribes in America, and each one had its own language, its own way of life, and its own name. But when Columbus landed in America in 1492, he actually thought he had landed in the Indies. And so he called these people Indians, and the name stuck. One of the songs that we sing around Columbus Day is we talk about how he thought he was exploring a new route to India. And so we know that he didn't actually discover North America. In fact, we think that a Viking named Leif Erikson might have come before, or an African from West Africa named Mansa Musa may have come over before as well. So the song we always sing is Christopher Columbus, he sailed the ocean blue. He bumped into a continent in 1492. We're going to start with the Native Americans on the northwest coast. Tribes like the Chinook, the Makah, and the Salish made their homes near the water along the northwest coast of America, and their food came right out of the sea. The Makah were very good whale hunters. They carved great canoes from the trunks of huge trees. Some canoes held up to 60 people. The hunters came just as close to the whale as they could. Men speared the whale with large harpoons, and later the whole village feasted on the whale and the berries. Now we know that they did not get their food from a supermarket. They had to go hunt and get the food that they needed to eat. So they gathered some food like berries, and they hunted animals for food as well. But they did not waste any of the animal. They used all of the parts of the animal. Fishing for salmon was much easier than hunting whales. Salmon were caught in traps that stretched from one side of a river to the other. Some fishermen believed that the first salmon caught was very special. They prayed over it, cooked it, and gave everyone a taste. Then they put the skeleton back into the river. They believed that this would bring more salmon back the next year. All tribes of the Northwest were fine woodworkers. The Haida built big wooden houses that faced the sea, and sometimes they carved the front door to look like an animal's mouth. The Haida also carved and painted giant totem poles with birds, animals, and people on them. The totem poles told family stories and legends. The Northwest people often had feasts. Sometimes these feasts lasted several days. At the feast, the host gave away many gifts, blankets, jewelry, and even canoes. The host wanted to give away as much as possible because it showed how important and rich he was. Southwest Native Americans. The hot, dry desert of the North American Southwest was where the Hopi, the Navajo, and the Zuni tribes lived. The Hopi built clay houses high on flat-topped mountains called mesas. Hopi means the peaceful ones, but some tribes who lived nearby were not so peaceful. They raided Hopi villages and stole food and blankets. That's one reason why the Hopi built their homes in high, hard-to-reach places, to stay safe from their enemies. If an enemy did reach a Hopi home, he would have a hard time getting inside because instead of front doors, homes had holes in their roof with ladders that they could pull inside quickly, and that kept their enemies out.
But they could jump in. So,
where did we go last summer, Riley, where we saw a traditional Pueblo?
Colorado.
Yeah, and what was it called? Mesa.
Oh yeah, Mesa.
Mesa Verde.
Oh yeah, Mesa Verde.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. We got to go inside.
Yeah.
It was not easy to farm in the desert where there was so little rainfall. Without rain, crops would not grow and people would starve. So each year, the Hopi prayed for rain. Hopi priests would dance holding snakes in their mouths, and then the snakes were set free to carry Hopi prayers back to special spirits. The zigzagging bodies of the snakes in the sand reminded the Hopi of the lightning that would come with the rain. The Plains Native Americans. Now, this is a group we're familiar with because we live on the Great Plains of North America. So these Native Americans built teepees, they lived in the tall grass prairie, and they hunted buffalo. Long ago, millions of buffalo roamed the grassy plains of the Midwest. Tribes like the Cheyenne, the Pawnee, and the Sioux hunted buffalo. And since buffalo herds kept moving, these tribes stayed on the move also. That means they were nomadic. The teepee made a good home for the Sioux. It was easy to put up and take down, and when the chief signaled that it was time to leave, the whole village could be ready to move in just a few minutes. Buffalo hunting was very dangerous. Hunters needed fast, brave horses. Native Americans honored their horses the same way they honored the best hunters, with eagle feathers. The Comanche were the best horsemen on the plains. By the time a boy was a teenager, he could gallop at full speed, lean over, and swing onto another person's horse. This was important because it was easy to fall off and get hurt during a buffalo hunt. Plains people were very thankful for the buffalo. They ate buffalo meat. They used every part of the buffalo. They turned buffalo skin into clothing, tents, and blankets. Bones and horns were carved into tools, bowls, and cups. Buffalo tails made good fly swatters. Children even played with toys made from the buffalo, bone dice, and balls of rolled up hair. the woodland Native Americans. The Delaware, the Iroquois, and the Penobscot. I looked that up. Penobscot, that's right. I'm going to try that again. Ready? The Delaware, the Iroquois, and the Penobscot lived in the eastern woodlands. Trees were all around them, everywhere, and woodlands put trees to good use. Branches became bows or spears or tools for farming. Bark was made into baskets, bags, and canoes. The Iroquois and the Delaware made long houses out of tree and bark. They were so big that many families could live inside. Woodlands people were great hunters. They could look at the tracks of an animal and know which way it was going and even how fast it was traveling. Hunters could move very quietly over the leafy forest floor. Sometimes they disguised themselves with deerskin so they could move and sneak up on their prey. Most woodland tribes had leaders called chiefs. When the Pilgrims came to America from England, they met the great chief of the Wampanoag people. His name was Massasoit. At first, the Pilgrims were afraid of this tall man, with his painted face, his wolfskin cape, and his bone necklace. But they soon learned that he was good and honest and kind. He promised to help the Pilgrims get settled in their new life and to make peace with them. And he did. At first, they were peaceful. Some woodlands people lived further south, like the Seminole, where it was warm all year long. They lived in houses called chickees with roofs made out of palm leaves. The sides of the chickees were open to let cool breezes in. They made bright-colored clothing and jewelry, and the women sometimes wore hundreds of necklaces at the same time. For hundreds of years, Indians were the only Americans. Then, about 500 years ago, great ships began to arrive, and people from Europe wanted to settle in America. The Indians tried to carry on with their way of life, but it was not easy. As years passed, the settlers moved onto Indian lands, and they did not let the Native Americans hunt or plant there anymore. By 1900, the new settlers had claimed most of the country. They forced the native people to move to special areas called reservations. Today, almost 2 million Americans make their homes in this country. More than a third live on reservations. The rest live in cities and towns. Many Indians say they walk in two worlds. They are part of today's America, but at the same time, they keep the ways of their people, the very first Americans. Thank you for listening to that book and being patient with all those big, long Native American names. We have a finger play that we do in school, and if you're in my class, you probably already know it. So, ready? This is a forest long, long ago. Here are the trees standing in a row. Look very closely. What do you see? Native Americans. 1, 2, 3. Now they are hiding. Shh. The forest is still. Now they are hurrying over the hill. Ever so quietly, now they are nearing the teepee that stands at the edge of the clearing. Good. And we have another one about the tall grasses of the Great Plains. Now we have plants and crops like wheat that look sort of like tall prairie grass growing across Kansas, but a long time ago there was native wild prairie, and the grass was often so tall that children could run through it, and even grown-ups, and they would not be seen. So this song talks about how just the child's head would be peeking out of the tall grass. Ready? Above the plains of golden grains, a young boy's head is plainly seen. A-hoo-ya, hoo-ya, hoo-ya, ya, swiftly flowing river. A-hoo-ya, hoo-ya, hoo-ya, ya, swiftly above the plains of golden grains, a young girl's head is plainly seen. A-hoo-ya, hoo-ya, hoo-ya, ya, swiftly flowing river. A-hoo-ya, hoo-ya, hoo-ya, ya, the swiftly flowing river. Thanks for singing with me, Riley.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed our video today, and we look forward to tuning in and checking in with you tomorrow. I hope you are enjoying this beautiful day today, and you can run through the grass in your yard.
Not as tall as the peonies, though.
That's true. Take care, and we'll check in tomorrow. Bye.